This is an excerpt of a recent Power Up webinar showing how to unlock the power and emotion in fonts. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. Let me illustrate 3 concepts using Photoshop. Now, we can do the same thing with Premiere and with Final Cut, but Photoshop makes it easy, and it's something that all of us have access to, or something similar to it. I'm going to illustrate line spacing, I want to illustrate tracking, and I want to illustrate kerning. Here's how this works. Let's take a look first at tracking. Tracking is the spacing between letters, and here I have a sans serif font, and we're going to select it here and go to the text tool. This control allows me to change the tracking. I can make it tighter, and I can make it looser. What's interesting is even as the line spacing varies, let's squeeze it way in, you can still easily read the text. If I space it way out, I can still easily read the text. Sans serif fonts can be tracked in a variety of different ways without materially screwing up their readability. But that's not necessarily true of serif fonts. And the reason is the design of the font, the shapes. Notice how the edge of the C leads us to the K. Notice how the K, the arm of the K and the footer at the top and the bottom lead us to the I. The whole font is designed for one letter to lead us to another letter. If I grab these and drag them closer, okay, I can still read it. But notice as I get farther and farther apart, I suddenly lose the readability and I start to see individual characters. And now I've got to work harder to make sense of what that word is as opposed to a collection of letters. It's even worse with Italic. The Italic is specifically designed. Look at the swoop of the A taking us to the top of the C. The swoop of the C taking us up to the K. The swoop of the K catching this hook right here from the I. The I and the N swooping to form a line. This is precisely controlled by the type designer to allow the I to smoothly flow from one letter to the next. If I bring these closer together, now they become unreadable. It's just too hard to make sense of this. And if I spread them out, you don't see the word anymore. You just see the letters. And now you've got to look really, really hard to say, what does that spell? And you almost have to spell it in your head to be able to figure out whether this is a word or if it's just a collection of letters. Sans serif fonts are much more forgiving for tracking than serif, and especially serif italic fonts. Another is line spacing. Every letter that's ever designed has what's called a bounding box, and you can see it there. The bounding box determines how much space it requires above the font, how much space it requires below the font, how much space left and right. And so what we're really doing when we're putting fonts together in a computer is we're pushing bounding boxes together. The bounding box determines the spacing of the letters. By default, every font on your computer is designed for body text to be able to be part of the book that you're reading, not the chapter title or the headline, which means that here I've got a title, but there's too much space. They add about 20% of line spacing. So rather than being line spacing at unit 1, it's unit 1 plus 20%, which is great for body text, but not great for headlines. We want to grab the line spacing and pull it up a lot. Right about here. And when we do, notice how now I see the title as an entity. Here's before, and here is after. Before and after. Notice how here I have 2 standalone lines, and here I have a title. Standalone, unified title. And all I did is tighten the line spacing about 20%. This example came from biblical translations as scholars were trying to figure out what the ancient scrolls, which were handwritten and written in a language which most of the time doesn't exist anymore, how they were to be translated into English. And a classic example here is this word nowhere or now here. Well, it could be now here, badly written with no space, or it could be nowhere. Maybe there's a space after the O. Maybe there's a space after the W. It could go either way. So what we need to do is we need to do what's called kerning. What kerning does is that we put our cursor here, hold the Option key down, and type the left arrow, and I can tighten the spacing between letters to make a word easier to read. To do that, I put my cursor between the two letters I want to adjust, hold the Option key down, and type the left and right arrows to kern that text. Notice here the bounding box of the W extends into the bounding box of the O, because if I draw a line here, give me a line, there we go, the W and the O overlap. That's normal. That would be appropriate, because look at the amount of space here and the amount of space there. It's the same amount of space. Here I've got the same amount of space. Here I've got the same amount of space, and here I've got the same amount. Kerning allows me to adjust the spacing between pairs of letters. Tracking allows me to adjust the spacing between all the selected letters, but they all have the same amount of distance between them. This was an excerpt of a recent Power Up webinar on how to unlock the power and emotion in fonts. For the complete version of this online training, please visit my store at larryjordan.com/store and look for Webinar 317. By the way, when you need to stretch your training dollars, membership in our video training library saves you money and time. You can access all our videos for a low monthly price of only $19.99. Almost 2,000 movies, hundreds of hours on a wide variety of subjects. Plus, premium members can download practice media and projects. Our training covers Apple and Adobe software. We update it multiple times each month. And for more information, visit larryjordan.com/membership. And thanks.